Now we are joined from Baltimore, Maryland by geopolitical and maritime affairs analyst Dr. Ralby. Thank you, sir, so much for joining us here on Asia One. Well, Dr. Ralby, how sensitive is the Strait of Hormuz issue right now, and what could real escalation there look like for global energy flows?
It's extremely sensitive, extremely fragile, extremely volatile. Anybody who thinks that we are out of the woods on this one is sorely mistaken, because we have a lot of the actual details yet to work out. And what we've really learned over the last week is that the MOU that was signed the week before last was really just a non-binding framework for more or less a ceasefire and an agreement to agree. It is not a peace deal because it does not contain in it the specifics that are necessary to actually work out how things will proceed. Unfortunately, what that's led to is recriminations on both sides, violent attacks on both sides, misunderstandings on both sides. And as a result, we've seen several ships actually be taken hit rather by either missiles or drones. And we've seen a return to some of the hostilities that characterized the early part of this conflict. And so this is a very sensitive situation that could go backwards quickly.
Right. And in your opinion, could Iran actually close the strait, or is it more, let's say, a threat than a real capability?
So there are sort of two ways to effectively close the strait. One is to mine the strait and make it so that it's impassable and too dangerous to even risk. They did that already, and we're seeing a counter-mining operation underway. Interestingly, that MOU I just talked about said that Iran itself would do the counter-mining. Unfortunately, that doesn't make sense because the U.S. has claimed multiple times that the U.S. destroyed the naval capability of Iran, and counter-mining is a naval operation. So it is happening, but it's happening by the U.S. primarily, and we are seeing an expansion of what are safe corridors for shipping. So mining is the first. The second is perpetual strikes, and those strikes have been a challenge because what we can see happening in the future is something akin to what we've had happen in the Red Sea, where even though it is technically open, ships are concerned about the safety and security going through because we will unfortunately run the risk of asymmetric attacks from different sources, from different angles, and that runs a real possibility of being a de facto closure. The third is bureaucratic, and that's what we've seen the Iranian regime try to impose recently. They're working to stand up an administrative scheme that involves permitting, and so they can decide who comes through, who doesn't, and if they don't want anyone coming through at any one time, nobody gets a permit. And so that means that if that's in turn backed up by those asymmetric attacks, we could see effectively a closure. And the last one is just that everybody decides to reroute and everybody decides to avoid it. Now, that's very hard to do because of volume. As you just mentioned, about a fifth of the world's energy supplies in oil and gas come through that strait. Additionally, about 13% or so of the world's fertilizer supply, critical for agriculture, and thus the food supply chains that we were discussing, also come through there. And to reroute is a volume problem. Take one big container ship, for example, like the one that got stuck in the Suez Canal a few years back. That would require 20,000 trucks just to move that one ship's worth of cargo. The same goes for some of the oil tankers, 20,000 trucks just to move that one cargo. And that is an unsustainable amount of terrestrial-based activity. Additionally, pipelines just create new choke points that can also be attacked or damaged. And so the maritime space remains the best option for moving volume. And so to keep it open, we have to recognize the spectrum of threats, all of which Iran is trying to invoke at the moment.
It was Dr. Ralby live from Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you, sir, so much for joining us. It's always great to hear you here.